Hey guys, it's David. Welcome to another edition of the Splat Report. I'm back on it. What are we talking about today? We are going to be talking about the World Championship. Something that I want to talk about. Huge event, awesome time. Got some other stuff too. Want to talk about the latest Splat Zones Cup as well. That was a pretty interesting team comp in the finals. That's the main thing I want to talk about. Very interesting. I don't think there's really any other topics I want to go through, so let's get right into it. Let me not hit the table. What about the World Championship? I think it was an amazing thing to watch. Super hype. When you look at it, I mean, Australia they put up a fight. Unfortunately, it kind of went how people expected. But I'm glad they seemed like they had a lot of fun, good time. It's always fun to be on that stage. So good for them. Hopefully it gives them even more incentive to keep grinding, keep making their country proud. When we get to the semifinals, we have the team for I guess it kind of is semifinals. Yeah, it's FT Win versus Alliance Rogue, and this was a big match for a lot of reasons. I mean, one, there's always a sort of rivalry between North America and EU. You know, the Western teams, they play all the time against each other, so it's familiar. At the same time, you know, there's that rivalry because a lot of people consider EU, including me, I mean, let's be honest, EU is a bit better than North America in terms of the amount of really high-level teams. And it just hasn't gotten itself together as much recently, though there is some signs of life. I think could be some really good teams coming up. And honestly, there is a lot of good teams in North America. I think low-key keeps getting better and better. And Deep Blue's recently picking up power. He's finally on a competitive team. We'll see how they can do. So there's definitely some competition in North America that's rising. But getting back to the match, that was super duper close. If you haven't watched it, watch it. It comes down to game 5. I think, you know, there was a few pivotal mistakes, like that big play, the big double kill that Keo got, where Gray just couldn't get the kill. Gray or Kivert couldn't get that kill on him. Keo ended up getting that double. That really set up a really big push, kind of put him on the back foot from the very beginning. I mean, tower control, Starter's main stage, that's kind of a strange one. Not my favorite tower control stage, but I think as far as it goes, there's nothing terrible about it. It's pretty fun. But I think there's a few things, and then, you know, of course, that ends up, you know, N8 ends up taking it. They beat EU. They put up a really big fight. A lot of people saying, and it's probably true, that, you know, not having a dedicated backline, Soren played really well, but, you know, it's not his main role. I mean, trying to pick up that in just a few months, really hard, even though a lot of people use Jet Squelcher. It wasn't like Charger, and I think it was a smart move by them not to try and, like, I've never used Charger before, but let me give it a shot. The Jet right now, I think, is a really strong spot even after the Stingray nerf from regular Splat Charger. Not that it's still very good, and I think a lot of the Charger mains are still going to be rocking it and doing incredibly well with it. But it's a viable option for Stingray especially. And you saw, like, Yamamichi, I think he pulled out Stingray, the Charger, once, but he mostly kind of stayed on that custom Jet. So for people that aren't like super familiar with a Charger, this is a really good backline option. Someone that wants a little more consistency, that, you know, someone that, if you don't really have the confidence to really like hit every single charge, and not to mention with a lot of these comps, what the Jet doesn't need to, if it's not like I need to kill him instantly, if I just need to put 20, 40 damage to get the splat, the Charger can, or the Jet can do it more consistently, and in quicker order than a charger can. And, you know, at max range, obviously the charger has to charge it up to really get its full length. So, and you have the burst bombs. There's a lot of things going for that weapon. But a little bit of, and I think it rightfully so, they're kind of some complaining from EU, like, hey, we probably could win the world championship if you would actually give us like a Team Olive or a Kraken Paradise to send to the world championships instead of doing it by country, dividing it by country. Because as great as all of those players are, it's kind of hard to fit them into, they don't have all of the single roles. It just doesn't happen that France had that. I think that's one of the advantages back Squids had, though they weren't able to take it this year, you know, when they were going into world championships, is they had it. They're all German. They all had people in different roles. You know, they had Echo as the dedicated backline. This year, you know, they did really well. They could have gotten to the, I think they definitely could have gotten to the GG boys if a few things, you know, changed. Whether they would have been able to beat them, who can say? It's one of those what ifs. But moving on to the world stage, the world championship match, it really looked like FT Win could end up taking it. They had that momentum going into the first two games, and I remember thinking, right with the change, you know, in the Clan Blitz game, I saw the 10 umbrella come out from, I think it was Atona using it. I was like, oh, that's a really good pick. You know, not having a tent on Clan Blitz, especially on Snapper. Well, I believe it was Snapper count, right? If my memory's serving me right. But either way, it's just such a good weapon for pushing through, you know, for starting a push. I mean, you have the baller jumps. Those aren't as good in a LAN as they are online, and you could kind of see that with the towards the end there. I can't remember if it was in that game or the European game. I don't know, but either way, the 10 umbrella was a great pick, and I remember thinking to myself, you know, they really got to win this Clan Blitz game. You know, FT Win really has to win it, because then they're going into two things of zones, and as many people might already know, Japan plays almost exclusively zones when they're practicing. A lot of their tournaments are zones only. They are very good, very practiced at Splat zones. So if you're not beating them in a mode that isn't zones, it gets a lot harder. So I was like, man, if they win CB, you know, Clan Blitz, and they're able to like ride these two zones, you know, they put themselves in, if they even win one of the zones matches, they take it. And if not, you know, they can survive the two zones maps and then hopefully take it in something else, whether it's tower control moray at the very end, or I forget what the final match was. Was it Rainmaker? I think it was Rainmaker. Can't remember. But either way, it didn't end up going their way. They lost that Clan Blitz game at the very end. Then GG Boys just took it from there. They won every single game. They won the Clan Blitz, they won the two zones, and I'm pretty sure it was Rainmaker. Can't remember which stage, but they ended up taking it. They won the championship again. Dynamon showing up for the third year in a row, his second championship, second for the whole GG Boys. Really amazing players overall, and I've had some people saying, oh, well, you know, they're not the best team in Japan. Maybe not. Maybe if like you weigh every single factor, but I mean, the fact is they've still shown up 2 years in a row. They're still very extremely good players, every single one of them. If you want to make the case, like what is the best team right now? I mean, they got second in that Japanese baseball league, which is still super good. Though I think this tournament really shows that at the top level, I think whether it's NA, EU, Japan, West or East, whatever place you want to go, the top teams can compete against each other. I think you could probably make the case that Japan would win more often, but they're nowhere near unbeatable by some of the best players in this region. So that's kind of good to know. I think Western Splatoon is really getting better and better, and I think as further time goes on, the more that gap is going to even. Though I will contend that I think JP is always going to be better on average, just due to the simple fact that they just have such a larger player base. They have a bigger pool of talent, coming up. So, and that's going to lead to more outliers. And by outliers, I mean the people that are really good at the game. So I think naturally, statistically, you're just going to see more good players coming out of Japan than any other region. And that's it for my thoughts on the World Championship. Really cool to watch. Thank God we got a serious championship. I mean, people say, all right, EU having to do thing only kind of hurts the European Championship having the turf war qualifiers. That's not great, but at the very least, we don't have freaking smash balls on our championship. I was watching that smash tournament for a while. I'm like, and then when the tide of battle just shifts because of stupid freaking smash ball, I'm just like, oh my God. If I'm a Smash player, I'm just like face palming right now. I'm like, oh, this isn't the way it should be played. It was sad, to be honest, but I mean it's still fun. It's still there's still a lot of skill involved. It's just kind of bizarre to see it happen like that. Anyway, let's move on. I wanted to talk about another tournament that happened that was really caught my eye, and a lot of people's eye actually, because it just had such weird team comps in the finals, stuff that you wouldn't even expect. And in the World Championship, you saw a lot of L3s coming out from the Japanese team. And people are like, oh my gosh, L3's the thing now? I gotta pick up L3. We got L3 it all over the place. L3D, regular L3. We got a baller and jet spam, everything in zones. Zones, turf war, that's the way to go. And you didn't actually see a lot of L3 actually in this tournament. Instead, let me go over the comp after I take a swig of my monster. They can sponsor me if they want. I definitely use that product enough. So let's take a look at what this team is. First, I'm going to butcher this name, but I think it's Sakayo, which had a charger. In the finals, the first match was Airliner Mall. He ended up using a regular charger with Stingray, but for the other two, he ended up using Firefin. The regular junior armor, a soda slosher, and the 96 gal deco. A very odd weapon to see do well. Kind of been invisible in Splatoon 2. Versus, this is the one that's super weird, double bamboo, and just the regular one. I think they use that. They use it the entire match. It's the one with curling bomb and missiles, with a brush, the Novell, of course, or Nouveau, that's the one with baller, and a camo 10 umbrella. So that is such a strange team. And what really struck me as strange, besides the match where they used, where the one charger used a regular splatter shot, or a regular splat charger, they had two and two the same subs for both teams. It's usually two splat walls for Sayako. They had 2 splat bombs and 2 splat walls versus 2 curling bombs and 2 mines, and they used the same comp. Bang Bang, sorry, the other team was called Bang Bang, which is very cute. 2 curlings, 2 mines, so each of them running 2 and 2 of the same sub was kind of weirdly symmetrical and very, very good looking. I like that. I like that symmetry. It's very nice. But it was such a strange match, and double bamboo. they end up losing, but it was very close. It seems very strong, especially if the Tenebrella can distract enough, because the bamboos are very good at, sort of coming in and just taking pot shots at people while they try and deal with the brush and Tenebrella. But they seem to really have some issues with the charger, because the charger, I was watching it from one of the bamboo's perspectives, and they have to deal with the bamboo's range. The other issue that they seemed to really have was the slosher kept running flanks, and it got it to the point where they couldn't really, the bamboo really couldn't focus in on the other team. You had to constantly be watching his side. And then, once the junior got armor up, he basically just armors, and then the soda moves in, and then so the bamboo has to take his attention off the zones and have to deal with them. And if he's not super accurate, then he's gonna end up losing that fight, because the Slosher has a pretty good range. I mean, versus bamboo outranges it, but just by a little bit. So if he gets that extra half second of movement towards him, he's in trouble, and especially his armor, it's not going to go well. Not to mention, you have the burst bomb rush too, so you can kind of fling over walls, kind of at weird angles. That's one of the things that the Slosher really has an advantage of. A lot of these straight line charger shooters, it can get into places where they just can't really get a good angle on the Slosher, and just sort of throws paint over at them, just waiting for, to get sort of one shot on him. Then, he can either throw a bomb with it, or try and move in to get the second slosh, or just force them to back away, or they'll die, basically. So that was a really cool match. And it really shows, you'd expect, a bunch of L3s just sort of trending after Worlds, but there's a lot of different comps you can use in a competitive, especially I guess in Splat zones. As this shows, it kind of has the sort of front line of the camo tent, and then sort of kind of almost like a hybrid between midline and backline with the bamboo option, just sort of going in there and supporting them, getting extra damage, because if you have any damage on you, you can one-shot. It'll one-shot, even with the ink, the bamboo can one-shot. Running a lot of special, or not special, but main power up. It was really cool. And then the other team, Sayako, it's kind of weird too. It's got the junior 96 Deco. I didn't watch it from his perspective. I wonder how he did. It didn't seem like he was really pressuring the backlines at all. He was basically just dealing with the camo. And this one mostly dealing with the camo and the brush. Basically just taking them out. Double wall, I think, is kind of annoying for bamboo to deal with too. I wonder how, actually, now that I think about it, it kind of stops the shield too. Basically, if you throw a wall, the camo just runs into it, they blow up. So that can also be another kind of anti-Tenebrella tech as well. I mean, you have to use your sub, but you kind of basically stop that sort of tent sort of pushing. It basically helps keep that from, that way the Tenebrella just doesn't go straight through and takes, paints all that area. Basically shuts him down right there. And it's kind of done. He has to back off because he has to wait a little while for that tent to sort of regenerate. It's interesting. But anyway, I think I've rambled on for long enough. Hopefully I gave you some food for thought. And I guess the moral of the story is be creative with your team comps. You don't necessarily need to bring out X, Y, and Z. There's always room for some creativity in the meta. Also wonders, do we hurt ourselves by having so many modes? I like, I guess not. I mean, I prefer to have all modes, but it does seem like them just having Splat zones only gives them some room for, like, you see a lot more creative team comps out of Japan than you kind of do in the Western scene. I mean, you have a few teams like Low Key or like Upgrade that bring out some can really bring out some odd stuff, some unconventional, but then like you have like the top teams that seem to really bank on a lot of very similar weapons. Like usually you'll see like 2 to 3 weapons that are mirrored in the matches. Anyway, that's just, I guess, something to think about. Maybe leave a comment on it below. And guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends. I do appreciate that, and hope you see you again another day. Bye.